But it was so perfect. Oh, I think my camera crashed. Hold on. Oh, my camera crashed. I was playing too much with the camera. Hold on. I got this. I got this. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Oh, come on. Okay, there we go. All right. I'm going to turn this off cuz I'll probably fuck it up. I don't want to fuck it up. Hi. Man, and I thought I had everything perfect. I really did. And I didn't. Oh, I should find us a Badger. I'm so glad you were there for that. Can I just tell you? That means a lot to me. I want to see. Wait, what did I? Oh yeah. Wait, what did I want to do? Oh yeah. Hold on. Let me see if I can find us a nice little campfire. Okay, hold on. Hold on, darlings. Don't worry. Mother will find you. I know there's stuff going on tonight. I have not. I'm sure there are people that are watching other things, so this will be there for them when they're waiting. But I'm glad you're here now. Wait, where's my shit? Where's my playlist? I don't get it. Oh, they're at my channel. They're at my channel. Oh my god. I can't believe it. Wait, here. Oh, wait, hello. Okay, well, that's fine. Kind of like that. I'm going to turn it just a little bit. Oops. No, I'm not. There we go. Now, let's see. Let's make sure. Wait, I need to make that somewhere else. Move it to a new window, please. Thank you. Oh, shitty balls. Oh, actually, I might do that. Even though it'll be a little more of a pain in the ass. Okay, that's fine. Here we go. Blurp. Blurp. Oops. Oh, well, that's kind of wrong. No, that's not right. No, that's not right either. Hey! Oh, I know why. Never mind. Hold on. No. What happened to the... Oh. Oh, boy. Wow. Maybe I'm amazed. You got them FOMOs. Yeah, I know. Well, you might be missing out. You're not as interesting. Hello. Why is that not? Oh, I see. Oops. All right, man. Fuck you. Come on. Boo-boo face. Come on. Come on, boo-boo face. Don't do that. Do-do-do-do. Okay, hold on. Hold on, everybody. I hope everyone's good. I hope you had a good Wednesday. I hope you danced. I hope you danced. I don't think that's the right one. Wait, what is that? Browser. Oh yeah, okay, fine. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Skadooby-dooby. Whoa, that's really loud. Let's turn those waves down a little bit, huh? Because we can play God. It's our beach. I got them FOMO blues. Oh, sometimes I love you. Sometimes you make me blue. I'm always afraid I'm missing out. I'm always thinking everyone's out. I just keep thinking I am missing out on you. Oh, I don't ever know what I should actually do. Yeah, that didn't make any sense. That's all right, though. That's okay. Yeah, today, well, we ended up doing some shopping in the end of the day after the stream and a bit of a nap. If we're going to be completely and 100% honest, there was a bit of napping. And then we went to the mall and we had dumplings, soup dumplings. Yummy, yummy, yummy. I got love in my tummy. Those are really good. I don't think I could live on soup dumplings because I would need to have tacos. But soup dumplings, they might be they're definitely in the top 7. I really like them. And this place makes really good soup dumplings. And it's in a mall. Like a regular old mall. In Glendale. Glendale? Remember that Kardashian? Well, you probably don't. But there was a Kardashian thing where they're like, your people are from Glendale. Where she says something about, I want to be with my people. And I don't know which one of them says it. And the other one says, or one of the other ones says, your people, you're from Glendale. That was funny. Anyway, those Kardashians, man. Comic geniuses. Pretty much. Anyway, I hope everyone had a great day. I had a pretty okay day. I mean, it was good. It wasn't... Well, I guess I did get a couple things done. I didn't get as much done as I had hoped, right? You have days like that where you got some stuff done, so it's not like it's the end of the world or anything. But I kind of wanted to get more done. So, anyway. I should start reading, but I'm not ready yet, if that's okay. I just want to hang out for a minute. If that's all right. Smoke a little weed. Make a little love. Get down tonight. Get down tonight. Baby. Do a little weed. Make a little love. Get down tonight. Womp womp. Get down tonight. Baby. That's a great song. I also, and part of my journey today was the bookstore. We went to a bookstore. So I love bookstores. We go to if we pass by a bookstore, we go into the bookstore. We do not need any more books. Bobo and I. Together, we have enough books. We have books we haven't even read. But we love books. We love books. So she got a book. I can't remember what book she got. I'll find out. Because I heard it sounded really good. Actually, I'll find out because it did sound really good. But I got a book called, Myrtle. And let me read it to you. I'm going to tell you what it says. Hold on. Myrtle, Volume 1. 100 elementary to impossible mysteries to solve using logic, skill, and the power of deduction. It is puzzles. I don't know exactly what it is, but the guy sold me on it. And I thought we could try and maybe I can figure out a way to do some of the pages like online. That wasn't a penis. I know it looked like one. But they're I don't know. I haven't read it yet. Okay, stop it. But like there's like it just looks really good. It looks really fun. Motives. I think there's a murder mystery. I don't know. It's like Wordle, you know, but murder. That's so clever. And then they have these things, but I could fill it out for us while we're like, you know, doing it. Right? Like they have these things over here. Anyway, I thought it would be cute. A whiteboard. Yes, right? Like I think it would be cute. I'm going to try it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read some of it and then I'll figure out how I could do it interactively. And you're right. I could probably like do it up on a whiteboard or something, you know, like do a full body shot. But anyway, I'll figure it out. But it looks like it might be kind of fun. I don't know. And then I'm hoping we can finish this book tonight. We might not to. We could have a Zoom. Oh yeah, to arrange our team strategy and SharePoint disposition. Yay! I think the more that this sounds like work, the better off we'll be. I don't know. What do you think? The more work, the better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My question is if it's impossible, what's the point of putting it in the book? Why are you doing impossible things? Torn. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Well, but first, weed. It's okay. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how we can do, if it'll be fun to do as a collab. And maybe you guys don't have to do anything. Maybe you just have to watch me try to do it. Wouldn't that be, I mean, maybe that's what it is. An impossible logic puzzle is probably poorly written. That's funny. Let me read the first. Actually, I'm going to read the first thing. Hold on. Wait. Degree of difficulty. O2 elementary. Occult medium. Oh my god, this looks so much fun. Okay, wait. I'll read the introduction. How about that? How to solve. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, I have to put my glasses on. Okay. Oh, they're not really helping. Okay. Welcome to Myrtle, Volume 1, the official publication of the case files of the world's greatest mystery-solving mind, Detective Logica. Is this easy? Oh, no, it's not easier to read. Okay. Unlike other... Wow, man. Is it like... Oh, you know what it is? It's my fucking key light. All right. Unlike other memoirs of the crime-fighting life, these Myrtles are not mere tales, but puzzles for you to solve. And all you need to crack these cases is a sharp pencil and an even sharper mind. That sounds so fun. Okay, hold on. To prove it, let's review Detective Logico's. It's not Logica, it's Logico. Very first case, which he cracked as a junior at Deduction College. The student body president had been murdered. And Logico was certain one of these three people had done it. Mayor Honey, he knows where the bodies are buried and he makes sure they always vote for him. 6 feet, left-handed, hazel eyes, light brown hair. Dean Glaucus, the dean of... Whoops. The dean... Oh, this is going to be easy. The dean of some such and such department at Deduction College. What does he do? Well, he handles the money for one. He's 5'6", right-handed, light brown eyes, light brown hair. Chancellor Tuscany, as the head of Deduction College, she has deduced exactly how much rich parents are willing to pay her to get their children a degree in logic. She's 5'3", left-handed, green eyes, and blonde hair. Sounds familiar. I'm actually 5'5". I do have green eyes, though. Okay. Young Logico also knew that each of them was in one of these places and had one of these weapons. The stadium, the bookstore, Old Main, a sharp pencil, a heavy bat. This is going to be fun. Well, but wait, where's the... I mean, how do you solve it? How to solve. Tell me how to solve it. So he starts off with a set of facts. And he pulled out a detective notebook and meticulously drew a grid, labeling each column with the end of row with a picture representing each of the suspects' weapons and locations. The locations were listed twice, once on top and once on the side, so that every square represented a unique potential pairing. Okay, this is going to be fun. We're going to do this. Yep. and then we can take the LSAT and apply to law school. And then no, oomph. Then we become world famous detectives and we solve all the mysteries. That's what happens. That's how the story ends. Get it right. Anyway. Yeah. Let's see. What else did I get? I got pretzels at the mall. I love pretzels. I love a good pretzel. I think there's no better time in my life to apply to law school than right now. I think there's no better idea that you've ever had in your entire life. What else did I get? I got makeup. That's boring. I got lip stuff. It was boring. But anyway. Those colors are pretty. The sunset colors. I guess that could be real. I've seen sunsets like that. Have you guys ever seen sunsets like that? I think I have. They may have been in Hawaii. Because being California, we're closer to Hawaii. So I feel like it's easier for us to go to Hawaii than it is for folks on the East Coast. Like, our going to Hawaii is like you're going to, like, the Dominican Republic or... I don't know. Where do people go on the East Coast? Everyone I knew always went to the Dominican Republic or maybe the Bahamas. But where do people go? Like, what's your little vacation spot? Not that we had a vacation spot, but you know what I mean. If we were going to, like, go somewhere, like, far, but to a beach, it would be Hawaii. Anyway, I know. Yeah. I should have been singing today. I should have been building. You know what? Maybe that's what I should do at the lounge on Friday, is I should build the song booth. Although I really think people want trivia. I really think people just want trivia. So I don't think it's up to me to do that. Mid-Atlantic beaches. Oh, yeah, no, there's great Mid-Atlantic beaches. I always wanted to, I had never made it to Rehoboth Beach up in Jersey. Did you ever go up there? Anybody that lives on the East Coast? I never made it up there. But yeah, no, the beaches out in Mid-Atlantic are nice. I like the sand dunes. I like sand dunes kind of thing. I think those are kind of Mid-Atlantic beaches, right? Sand dunes, seagrass. I love seagrass so much. Oh, it's in Delaware, right. I always get it mixed up. I always thought it was in Jersey. But I heard that was a nice beach. Cape May. Yeah, see, I never went to those places. I went to Asbury Park because a friend of mine lives there. And I didn't really... I mean, that wasn't like my favorite place. I loved where my friend lives. It was a beautiful little house. But I wouldn't necessarily want to live there. But yeah, no, those are nice. I like New Hampshire beaches. I like New Hampshire. I love New England. Actually, I really love the East Coast. I actually kind of preferred living on the East Coast, except for I really do enjoy living in Los Angeles to some degree. Because I love the weather. Although I like the weather when I lived in New England too. I don't know. I mean, I think you can live in anything. think you can find the beauty in anything, right? You can be pissed off about anything and at the same time find the beauty in it, right? So you can do. Both things can be true. That's my favorite saying. I think once I discovered two things can be true at once, it really set me free. Because I think growing up, I always felt like I always had to like have a reason for my decisions, right? Like, or I had to have like a strict belief in something. And it's almost like I feel like it's been recently a kind of a realization has been, actually I can hold two things in my head at once and see the truth in each of them and have other factors help me decide what might be right for, you know what I mean? I know I'm rambling, but you know what I mean, right? You get it. No, Lolo, we don't get it. We really don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm gonna listen to music tonight. That'd be nice. I'd like to listen to some music. All right, I should read a book, huh? Because I feel bad. Okay. I'm a little stuck to my seat. I have shorts on. I was wearing shorts. Because it got hot all of a sudden. Like it was cold this morning. And then all of a sudden it got super fucking hot. I mean, not bad. I shouldn't complain. It's fine. Hot's nice. Hot-blooded. Check it and see. I got a fever. Oh my God. You guys, I don't know if I should say this. No, I'm not going to. I got a message, a very nice message, from someone that I haven't seen in 40 years. Right? Yeah. Not since I was 20. Yeah. Not since I was about 20 or 21. I can't remember when we parted ways. And I got the nicest email, just like I know you didn't expect to hear from me, but here I am. And I thought, well, that is so nice. I didn't expect to hear from them. But it was a very pleasant surprise, and it was very nice to hear that they're okay and that they did things they wanted to do, and I thought that was great. I don't know how he found me, but that was great. And I will fuck you like nothing matters. Where's my... What was I looking for? Oh, I know what I was looking for. But it was weird, it was like, why are you getting in touch with me now? What did I do? How'd you find me? Welcome to our two guests. Oh, wait, I'm one of them. Yeah, I know. There's news tonight. I'm competing with news and probably all sorts of wonderful things. All right, I'm going to get reading, or else I'll never finish this book. You'll never finish this book. Okay, do I want that, though? I don't really want that. Wait, do I? Yeah, I do. Okay, ooh, awesome. Awesome sauce. Okay, we're on chapter 28. Of Democracy Awakening, and we are going to go through the last 3 chapters of this book tonight. So settle in and be prepared to fall asleep. I will not be falling asleep. All right, and as usual, a content warning that there could be, this is a historical book that deals with challenging episodes in American history around the challenges to democracy and how people responded in the face of those challenges. And at this point, we are down to the current day with some look backs at particular moments in history. So we're kind of winding it down. If you want to hear the other chapters of Democracy Awakening, read mostly in some hushed tones, hopefully calming, then please visit my channel and go to the playlists, and you can see Bedtime with Lolo, Democracy Awakening, and that will have all the chapters for you. There's usually 1 to 2 chapters a night. So enjoy that when you need a little bit of a nighttime audio file in your ear. There. All right. Let's do it. Let's fall in love. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 28. A Progressive America. In the late 19th century, plenty of white reactionaries had abandoned the ideals of the Declaration of Independence, if indeed they ever accepted them, and they were not going to be stopped by the 14th and 15th Amendments or Congress's 1870 establishment of the Department of Justice to stop white Southerners from terrorizing their black neighbors. When racial discrimination became illegal, opponents of black rights simply took a new tack. They began to argue that black voters were trying to redistribute wealth from hardworking white taxpayers into public works projects to benefit the state's poorer inhabitants. They warned that letting poorer men vote was socialism and would destroy the individualism that lay at the heart of American liberty. Republicans who were enjoying the benefits of an expanding economy were quite open to the idea that poor voters endangered the country. Enormous advances in technology had brought new products and services to the country, bananas, for example, as well as national railroads. And by the 1880s, upwardly mobile Americans had enough leisure time and money to celebrate weddings with special dresses and cakes and to give their children toys on their birthdays. Massive factories like industrialist Andrew Carnegie's plant in Homestead, Pennsylvania, churned out steel to make buildings like Chicago's Home Insurance Building, completed in 1885, its 10 stories making it so astonishingly high it could only be called a skyscraper. This innovation was possible, Republicans insisted, because they used the government to protect the ability of men like Carnegie to run their businesses as they saw fit. Tariff laws guaranteed that domestic industries would not have to compete with foreign products, so businessmen could innovate, bringing new products and new profits that would enable them to develop their businesses further. That development paid the country in jobs, permitting all Americans to enjoy a rising standard of living. That vision was a reworking of the worldview of elite enslavers, updated for the era of industrialization. Carnegie explained in 1889, quote, individualism, private property, the law of accumulation of wealth, and the law of competition were the very height of human achievement. While the new economy created great disparities of wealth, he thought those differences were inevitable and a good thing. The money flowing up to the top enabled the country's wealthiest men to build libraries and concert halls and universities and art collections that raised the cultural standards of the whole country. If it were diverted into the pockets of the workers, he argued, it would simply be used for housing, food, and leisure that would benefit no one but the workers themselves. Newspapers celebrated leading industrialists as the nation's heroes, and Republicans took credit for creating the environment for them to work their magic. Across the country, men served by the new economy cheered on its leaders. By the 1880s, it was common knowledge that industrialists controlled Congress. Even the staunchly Republican Chicago Tribune complained, quote, behind every one and one of half of the portly and well-dressed members of the Senate can be seen the outlines of some corporation interested in getting or preventing legislation. The Senate, Harper's Weekly noted, was a club of rich men. Even casual observers could see that the nation was not in the rosy shape Republicans claimed. On shop floors in eastern factories, workers shoveled coal or worked looms for 14 to 16 hours a day for pennies, and if their health broke down or they lost a limb, they were out of both work and luck. In the West, rains had failed for 5 years, and the hot winds baked crops dry in 2 days. This would be a fine country if only it had water, a hopeful farmer said over a Western joke. Yes, and so would hell, was the punchline. Farmers were saddled with high-interest mortgages, middlemen skimmed the profits when crops went to market, and freight charges from railroad monopolies took the rest. Yet Republicans insisted that those asking the government to address the needs of the workers and the farmers were un-American. As Carnegie said, quote, "The socialist or anarchist who seeks to overturn present conditions is to be regarded as attacking the foundation upon which civilization itself rests." Men of wealth had to stand against workers who tried to control politics. Hoping to level the playing field, Democrats promised to lower the tariff that enabled industrialists to collude to raise prices. Republican reformers joined them to elect Democrat Grover Cleveland. Did I miss something wrong here? Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. Republican reformers joined them to elect Democrat Grover Cleveland to the White House in 1884. But their hopes fell apart fast as horrified business Republicans stopped tariff reform in the Senate and then pulled out every stop they could to make sure their candidate, Benjamin Harrison, won in 1888. Harrison lost the popular vote by about 100,000 votes, but finagled a win in the Electoral College. Does that sound familiar? Cleveland, moving out of the White House despite having won the popular vote, warned, quote, "The gulf between employers and the employed is constantly widening, and the classes are rapidly forming, one comprising the very rich and powerful, while in another are found the toiling poor. Corporations, which should be the carefully restrained creatures of the law and the servants of the people, are fast becoming the people's masters." The vision of a nation in which a few wealthy men ruled seemed to be hardening into place. Harrison's men promised, quote, "This is a businessman's administration, and before the close of the present administration, businessmen will be thoroughly well content with it." Lest there be any doubt about the permanent control, over 12 months in 1889 and 1890, the Republicans added 6 new states to the Union in the largest acquisition of states since the original 13. North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and Washington had so few people their addition would not change the makeup of the House much, but the Republicans expected they would add 12 new Republican senators and 18 Republican presidential electors. They openly boasted they would control the government for the foreseeable future. But in the summer of 1890, a new political movement began, quietly, to take shape. In Western towns, workers and poor farmers and entrepreneurs, shut out of the opportunities by monopolies, began to talk to one another. They discovered a shared dismay over a government that seemed to work only for the rich industrialists, and anger that they seemed to be working themselves to the bone only to have the fruits of their labor taken by the rich. Your posts are blocked? No, they're not. You're right there. Are you saying bad words? No, you're not. You're not blocked. Let's see. Western organizer Mary Elizabeth Lees told audiences, "It is no longer a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but a government of Wall Street, by Wall Street, and for Wall Street." Westerners suffering in the new economy began to come together. Reviving older social organizations, they distributed literature across the country explaining how tariffs worked and how railroad monopolies jacked up prices. Newspapers began to echo their arguments, and where there weren't local newspapers, members of the growing political movement, the Farmers' Alliance, began to print them. Their vision of the country's political economy defended the idea that the government should treat everyone equally. Alliances declared that farmers and entrepreneurs shared the same interests as workers and called for, quote, "the reform of unjust systems and the repeal of laws that bear unequally upon the people." What's happening, Jim? Hold on. The new Western movement also reflected the community focus of marginalized Americans, redefining what it meant to be a success in America. Rather than the cutthroat individualism of those like Carnegie, they called for reviving an older tradition, one in which manliness meant honesty, generosity, community-mindedness, and dignity. They called for a manly, honest defense of popular rights, a clear-cut expression of principles, a bold demand for the restoration of that which they have been despoiled under the deceitful forms and names of law. They rejected the era's political fights for dominance, and so there was room in their political coalition for women, and often, despite the era's Jim Crow walls, for black farmers. Supporters of the Alliance movement wanted the nation to honor its Civil War promise of equality before the law and equality of access to resources, and they recognized that the concentration of wealth in the new industrial economy was as dangerous as the concentration of wealth in the slave economy. Their solution was to require direct election of senators, so industrialists could not buy up legislatures to pick the man they wanted, along with the regulation of railroads, lower tariffs, a graduated income tax, easier credit, better working conditions, and higher wages. When the votes were counted in the midterm election of 1890, it turned out that newspapers, letters, barbecues, lectures, and picnics had done their work, educating those on the periphery of politics about the grand issues of the day. The alliances had carried South Dakota and almost the whole state ticket in Kansas. And they had the balance of power in Minnesota and Illinois legislatures. In Nebraska and Iowa, they had split the Republicans and given the governorship to a Democrat. They controlled 52 seats in the new Congress. By 1892, reformers had joined together as the People's Party, or the Populists. Claiming that the nation had been brought to the verge of moral, political, and material ruin, they warned that businessmen had brought and paid for politicians and the media to concentrate the nation's wealth in their own hands. Quote, "The fruits of the toil of millions are boldly stolen to build up a colossal fortune for a few, unprecedented in the history of mankind." Well, let me tell you. And the possessors of these, in turn, despise the republic and endanger liberty. Voters agreed, and they returned to Cleveland to the White House. They also put Democrats in charge of both houses of Congress for the first time since before the Civil War. This was a revolution Republicans could not abide, and they howled that Cleveland would crash the economy. Their repeated warnings that rich men should get their money out of the stock market before Democrats took over sparked a financial panic just days before Cleveland took office. Ignoring that the crash had happened on their watch, Republicans told voters that the recession, with its unemployment, business failures, strikes, and desperation, was entirely the fault of the Democrats, and in the midterm election of 1894, voters reversed the landslide of 1892, putting Republicans back in charge of Congress. Hi, Paul. I don't know, Jim, you're posting, so I don't know what you In the presidential election of 1896, it was Democratic candidate William Jennings Bryan who sounded like Lincoln. Quote, "There are those who believe that, if you will only legislate to make the well-to-do prosperous, their prosperity will leak through on those below," Bryan said. Quote, "The Democratic idea, however, has been that if you legislate to make the masses prosperous, their prosperity will find its way up through every class which rests upon them." Republican William McKinley won the election, but a new generation of Republicans recognized that voters demanded change. They found a way to create that change thanks to a long brewing war in Cuba. The Spanish-American War would enable young Republicans like Theodore Roosevelt. Oh, yeah, that's true. That does happen. It does. Oh. I can't. No, you're there. I don't know. I can see you. Oh, shit and balls. Sorry. Uh-oh. Now I did it. Now I fucked it up. Okay. Oh, William Jennings Bryan. There are those who believe that if you will only legislate to make... whoops. We read all of that. Girl. Okay. In 1898, younger Republicans joined Democrats in demanding that the United States help the Cubans in their struggle against the island's Spanish colonizers. If indeed the country was as strong and moral as their elders claimed, they insisted that it had a duty to come to the rescue of the people of Cuba. The businessmen who were eager to make sure sugar production on the island wasn't disrupted objected to the intervention, but politicians like Roosevelt worried that such focus on money-making was ruining the United States. "We will have this war for the freedom of Cuba," Roosevelt told Republican operative Mark Hanna, shaking his fist at Hanna at a public dinner, in spite of the timidity of the commercial interests. Intervention in Cuba enabled younger Americans like Roosevelt to rebrand the American cowboy. After the Civil War, Democrats had created the cowboy to represent a white man who worked hard, stood alone, and dominated those around him. The Spanish-American War redefined the image of the cowboy as a man who represented a brotherhood and who valued fairness for all. Given permission to raise his own regiment, Roosevelt emphasized that his men came from every part of the country and from every walk of life. Harvard men and indigenous Americans, Northerners, Southerners, white, black, rich, and poor. Any man who was hardworking and independent, who demanded only to be judged on his merits, could represent America as one of Roosevelt's cowboys. The press called his regiment the Rough Riders, after the cowboys and gunfighters in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Spanish forces surrendered less than 3 weeks after the Americans arrived. The new cowboy seemed to represent a new America, and Roosevelt took that image into government. The New York Times wrote that his career showed young men that there is a higher and nobler ideal than the acquisition of fortune, and that service to one's country is the first duty of patriotic citizenship. If the U.S. was going to spread its system overseas, it seemed imperative first to clean up that system at home. Explicitly adjusting Abraham Lincoln's vision to the modern world, turn-of-the-century progressives believed in protecting an individual man's ability to rise. But while Lincoln Republicans were committed to protecting equality before the law and to making sure individuals had access to resources, they saw no reason to create legislation addressing poverty, since they believed removing rich monopolists from power would do the trick. On the East Coast, we have achieved. Oh, congratulations! How is the future? Is the future as good as I hope it's going to be? Let's see here. But while the Lincoln Republicans were committed to protecting equality before the law and to making sure individuals had access to resources, they saw no reason to create legislation addressing poverty, since they believed removing rich monopolists from power would do the trick. When they established the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands to address starvation in the post-war South, they put it under the War Department to indicate that it would be temporary. 30 years later, the progressives knew that protecting individuals required a strong government that regulated business and supported social welfare. When an assassin murdered President McKinley and put Roosevelt in the White House, the new president helped Americans expand the meaning of liberalism. In the years of the early republic, liberalism had meant government restraint to keep from intruding on a man's liberty. The Civil War Republicans had expanded that definition to mean a government that protected individuals by defending equality before the law and equal access to resources. Progressive-era reformers expanded that concept yet again, understanding that the federal government must restrain the excesses of big business that were crushing individuals. That conviction was bipartisan. In the early years of the 20th century, progressives in both parties regulated business to stop corrupt industrialists from increasing their profits by adulterating milk with formaldehyde and painting candles with lead paint, for example. Cleaned up the sewage systems in tenements and cities, protected public lands, invested in public health and education, raised taxes, and called for universal health insurance. They ratified the 16th Amendment protecting the income tax and 17th Amendment providing for the direct election of senators. They sought, as Roosevelt said, to return to, quote, an economic system under which each man shall be guaranteed the opportunity to show the best that there is in him. LA time. That's right. That's the end of chapter 28. Oh, I'm gonna have a beverage. I didn't drink enough water today, by the way. We are a lovely bunch. We are a lovely bunch on the East Coast. On the East Coast. So if you have a choice of this Friday of me, I think I can do both, but if I can't, if I could only do trivia or only do stuff in the kitchen, what would be your preference? We are a lovely bunch. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Womp, womp. Trivia from the kitchen. I can do that. I can do kitchen trivia. Hell yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be or. I'm just saying, like, yeah, you know what? What am I saying? I can do both. What a fucking idiot. Sorry. I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah. And applicant trivia. What is it? Applicable trivia. Oh, no. I'm not that good. No. You get whatever food comes out and random trivia generator. Both is where it at. Kitchen trivia. That's where I'm an eclair. Omelets and trivia. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out that fucking butter churner I got a long time ago because I was going to churn butter a long time ago on a fucking stream. I still want to make my own butter. So I was going to do that. Including microwave dinners. What should I make? I mean, I'm going to make the butter. You know what I'll do? I might make scones, like for the Saturday morning, you know. Churn sauerkraut. I like sauerkraut. I like kimchi. I just had kimchi for the first time. I know, I'm stupid for not having it sooner, but that's just the way it is. Not all of us can be as cool as you guys. But yeah, I like it. Butter for buttermilk waffles. Oh, yeah, well, I mean, you know, anything. I eat a lot of butter. I like butter. But I want to try and make my own. So I got a butter churner. Actually, you know what? I should go get the butter churner and show it to you. Hold on. I'm going to show it to you. Hold on. I'll BRB. But I have my jammies on, so I have to turn my camera off so you don't see my jammies. Hold on. Hold on. I'll be right back. You love sauerkraut? I like sauerkraut. Yeah, I do. I do. I love you. I love you, fermented vegetables. Wait, let me go get the thing. Hold on. I gotta get the butter churn. Hold on. Okay, hold on. That was a little cold. It's got a little colder. It's a little cold. Welcome to Lolo's Witness Protection Program. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is the butter churner. Turn and churn. Turn and churn, damn it. Okay, let's open this. I haven't even opened it. I got it so long ago and I never even opened it. Well, I have to use this. Ow. Ow. Oh, man. I don't have any... Why don't I have any sharp instruments in here? Where Where's all my sharp instruments? I'm doing the unboxing. Yeah. To kind of container, maybe cylindrical. Yeah. Hold on. Why is this so hard? Why do I not have anything sharp in here? Why? Oh, wait. Here we go. Oh. Wow. This is like super. Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, what's the... Oh, cheesecloth. Just leave that. Leave that in there. Oh. Oh, baby. Butter paddles. Oh, I cannot fucking wait. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to do this. Here's the book. Oh, here's the book. Whoops. There's the book. Butter churner. Now you're ready to do it. Okay. Hold on. Let's get this bad boy. Oh. This is going to be so great. I'm going to make the best fucking butter. Yeah, it's cheesecloth. I know what it is. I'm not stupid. I mean, I'm kind of stupid, but... Can't do anything. So excited. I don't know why I get so excited about this stuff. Oopsie. Look at that. There it is. Stop. This is going to be so fun. I'm going to make the best butter in the world. I don't even know. It came totally put together. I'm so excited. And I just can't hide it because I'm going to churn some butter and I think I like it. Skim milk? No, no. Well, no. I'm not going to. I'm going to make fully fat, incredible butter. Mm. And then it has recipes. I'm going to be so fucking self-sufficient. It's going to be crazy. Okay, wait. Here we go. Herb-infused butter. What do they have putting in it? I'm just curious. What do they think are herbs? Basil, parsley, chives, and garlic. Well, I mean, yeah. I guess so. I guess that is. Good. It was fully assembled. It would have been an IKEA. I'll still make it difficult. Don't worry, Paul. Lemon, garlic, and dill. Sweet cinnamon butter. How hard can that be? Spicy chili butter. That looks good. Spicy chili butter. I'm so excited. Ooh. Anybody want any butter for Christmas? I'll send you butter for Christmas. Pretty sure lemon isn't an herb. No, it was a different recipe. Wait, what? No, well, it's no. So this is a different one. Lemon. Oh, no. Lemon, garlic, and dill. It's a different one. And surprisingly, you know what the ingredients are? Lemon, garlic, and dill. Crazy. And I'm going to make it too. Lemon butter? I'm making that all fucking day long. I'm going to eat it. You make kimchi butter. Yeah. Yeah. Spicy chili butter. Oh my God. This is going to be amazing. I might just become a milkmaid. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I can't do that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the book. Wait. Wait a minute. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right, here we go. Chapter 29. The Road to the New Deal. Progressives were able to protect the rights of individuals, but that had been possible largely because Black Americans and immigrants had been cut out of the vote, making it hard for opponents to attack progressives as socialists. Excuse me. Thank you. Women's rights activists helped them avoid that accusation, too, by arguing for their inclusion in society, not as people inherently equal to men, but as wives and mothers. But others continued to try and expand American equality by defending civil rights. In 1909, a coalition came together across race and gender lines in New York City to establish the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or NAACP. To form the group, Black Americans, including a journalist, Ida B. Wells Barnett, suffragist and educator Mary Church Terrell, African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church Bishop and civil rights advocate Alexander Walters, and sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois, joined with right reformers like suffragist and socialist Mary White Ovington, Jewish immigrant Henry Moskowitz, and journalist William English Walling, the wealthy socialist son of a formerly enslaving family, along with the settlement house workers like Florence Kelly and Lillian Wald. I also want to acknowledge personally that I grew up really appreciating who Cecil Williams was and how he founded the Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco. I went to it a couple of times, and I just know that he passed this week, and he personally did so much for all of humanity, not just San Francisco, but the Tenderloin. But he really did change the Tenderloin for the better and the world for the better. So anyway, I just want to shout out because we lost one of the most amazing voices in civil rights and humanity when we lost Cecil Williams. So I just want to say that from Glide Memorial. Thank you. They chose as their founding date February 12th, Lincoln's birthday, vowing to promote equality of rights and eradicate caste or race prejudice among citizens of the United States, to advance the interest of colored citizens, to secure for them impartial suffrage, and to increase their opportunities for securing justice in the courts, education for their children, employment according to their ability, and complete equality before the law. Turning those principles into reality, though, would require expanding the concept of American liberal democracy once again. This time, though, it would be the Democratic Party, the party that had initially tried to replace the principles of the Declaration of Independence, Declaration of Independence with the hierarchical ideology of white supremacy that would expand those rights. By the time the NAACP organized, that change was already underway. Curiously, the expansion of the idea of liberal democracy grew in the Democratic Party from a backlash against the determination of the former Confederates to reduce their black neighbors to a state as close to enslavement as they could. By 1878, Southern Democrats had effectively disenfranchised Republican voters, black and white, and turned their region into a one-party state. With the help of this powerful Southern bloc, Democrats had taken control of the House of Representatives in 1875, in the midst of a recession, and in 1879 they took control of the Senate. Because of the seniority system in Congress, this meant that former Confederates held key positions. Retaking control of Congress, they believed they had a mandate to get rid of the power of the federal government to protect civil rights, recreating the hierarchical society the United States had utterly rejected 15 years before, or destroying the government in the process. Cholula. I eat Cholula butter. I actually make that. Kimchi rice. If it is something other than kimchi and rice. Let's see. Retaking control. Okay. Determined to get rid of the new nationalism and restore states' rights as the law of the land, they refused to fund the government. All of this sounds so familiar, doesn't it? But yet it was 1875, or 1879 rather. One Southern representative told the New York Times, quote, "The great blunder of our section was in abandoning our seats in Congress in 1861. It would never happen again," he said. They would stay in Congress and control both the South and the North. Republican President Rutherford B. Hayes and House Minority Leader James A. Garfield of Ohio recognized that as an extremist faction in Congress, forcing its will on the country by holding government finances hostage was a form of revolution. If the extremist tactics worked, this would be only the first of their demands, and the country would fall, as one Democrat said, under the absolute despotism of irresponsible and unrestrained partisans. Popular opinion swung behind the Republicans, and the former Confederates backed down. Caving to the extremists destroyed the Democrats in the upcoming election when the Republicans reversed their recent losses and put Garfield, now famous for his stand against those who wanted to defund the government, into the White House on a platform of protecting black rights. It was clear to Democratic leaders that the expanding demographics of the late 19th century had left the principles of the Southern extremists behind. While much of the white South was looking backward, the rest of the country was full of new voices speaking unfamiliar dialects and languages, and new music, like ragtime and cowboy songs. The nation's streets, offices, factories, and schools were full of people who wore clothes from other countries and ate foods that native-born Americans found exotic. New books and journalism told the story of life from Chicago's streets or the Mexican border or an Indian reservation, keeping the country alive to the exciting possibilities of a multicultural world. Those determined to keep control of the country and force those around them to conform to their world, by violence if necessary, were out of step with the modern era. Yum. I like rice. I like rice dishes. So Democrats began to turn their focus to the northern. I really feel sorry for people just listening to this. I apologize that I'm so spaced out all the time. These new Democrats, led by the New York reformer Grover Cleveland, still emphasized the importance of local government and the dangers of a strong federal government, but they cared less about white supremacy than about supporting workers and farmers in new industrial economy. Their shift worked. In 1884, voters put Cleveland in the White House. His candidacy had attracted a number of Republicans, dubbed mugwumps, who opposed their party's swing behind big business. Cleveland's inauguration in 1885 was widely interpreted as a moment of racial reconciliation, an occasion illuminated by the fact that in his years as New York's governor, he had broadened black appointments to office and desegregated the New York City police force. Democrats' focus turned away from the racial animosity of the South to the northern cities, especially New York City. The Tammany Hall political machine had called the shots in New York City for decades, but the increasing corruption of its leaders led boss Richard Croker to step down in 1902. His replacement, Charles Murphy, faced the problem of retaining the loyalty of his working-class voters within the bounds of legality. To figure out what the voters wanted, Murphy and the new crop of urban Democratic politicians he cultivated turned to the expertise of female settlement houseworkers, the nation's first secular social workers. Women like Frances Perkins, who had worked with Jane Addams at Chicago's Hull House, explained to men like Tammany Hall's James Farley the needs of the workers for fair pay, workplace protections, and a basic social safety net. At the same time, Farley focused on equality before the law, insisting in 1926 that black boxer Harry Wills had the right to challenge the white heavyweight champion Jack Dempsey, and refusing to let Dempsey fight white challenger Gene Tunney in New York City until Dempsey fought Wills. Farley paved the way for black Americans to find their way to the Democratic Party in the North. Farley rose through the ranks of the Democratic Party to become a kingmaker. He backed New York Governor Al Smith, who was a close associate of the NAACP's Moskowitz, for the presidency in 1928, marking the first time a Catholic son of immigrants ran as a major party candidate for the White House. Farley went on to run Franklin Delano Roosevelt's gubernatorial and later presidential campaigns. Even before women had the right to vote, Farley insisted that their voices were crucial to the democratic experiment, and his protégés endorsed that opinion. Smith had helped Perkins organize a factory investigating commission after the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, to look not simply at fire dangers but also at long hours, low wages, child labor, overwork, and almost everything you could think of that had been in agitation for years, as Perkins later recalled. When FDR became president, Perkins became the first woman in a presidential cabinet. When you arrive at kimchi rice, you may be inclined to make a homemade t-shirt with kimchi rice. Is this how exciting kimchi rice is? I think I need this recipe. I'm now actually really excited about the possibility of this rice. Paul, I may need an email. If it is indeed something different, I might have to go back and read chat. Okay. Farley brought together a powerful coalition of Catholics, women, Black Americans, and workers to back progressive state laws. In many ways, FDR's New Deal was the urban democratic experiment of the 1920s applied to the whole nation. Democrats used the federal government to regulate business, provide a basic social safety net, largely through work programs, and promote infrastructure, much as city bosses had pioneered. The New Deal liberal consensus, expanded under Democratic President Harry Truman, his Republican successor Dwight Eisenhower, and the presidents of both parties who followed them, reordered American society in ways people like Perkins had hoped. It created what economists called the Great Compression, in which wealth and income distribution became much more even, dramatically reducing economic inequality. Between 1945 and 1960, the nation's gross national product jumped 250% from $200 billion to $500 billion. Yes, and attendant of casual. Wow. After World War II, the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, more popularly known as the GI Bill, helped 51% of veterans, 7.8 million, get vocational training or a college degree. It helped my dad. It added 450,000 engineers, 180,000 medical professionals, 360,000 teachers, 150,000 scientists, 243,000 accountants, 107,000 lawyers, and 36,000 clergymen to the economy. The benefits of the plan went primarily to white men. Although technically eligible, Black and brown men and women were largely excluded. But the movement of formerly poor white men into the middle class created a vacuum that moved everyone upward, while unions helped to solidify the power of workers. The GI Bill also helped about 4 million veterans buy homes, which in turn boosted first the building trades and then the production of new services and home goods as those houses filled with children. Wonderful news, read one commercially produced card to congratulate new parents in 1962 for the diaper service, greeting card publishers, toy shops, orthodontists, infants wear department, carriage makers, milkman, supermarket, pediatricians, furniture manufacturers, shoe salesmen, department stores. Congratulations. Across the economy, incomes doubled from 1945 to 1970. The era was characterized by affluence, single-family homes with cars, good public education, steady jobs, electricity, plumbing, toys, television, health care, and a secure old age. Meanwhile, a strongly progressive tax code spread the cost of repaying the wartime debt and funding the new social services evenly. The top marginal tax rate during Eisenhower's administration was 91%, and the effective tax rate for the highest incomes was 70%. The corporate tax rate peaked at 52.8% in the late 1960s. That doesn't sound leftover. I know, my fried rice is definitely leftover. New Deal programs often excluded Black and brown Americans to cater to Southern Democrats whose votes FDR needed. But the New Deal marked yet another expansion of liberal democracy. While it focused on protecting white male heads of household, it suggested that Black Americans, people of color, and women should have a say in their government and its benefits, however imperfect the early days of that expansion turned out to be. That's the end of Chapter 29. Oh my God, Becky. Okay, wait. Cooked rice, then add kimchi to a thing of cooked rice. I would eat that. I think I do eat that. I just probably put other. Do you ever eat like chili oil? There's this chili oil called is it called Jing sauce? Fly by Jing. Fly by Jing. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of that sauce? Fly by Jing. You can get it on Amazon. Sorry. But you could probably get it in the store too. It's like fly, Fly, by, by, and then Jing, Jing. It's, if I could drink it and not like ruin my insides, I would probably drink it. But it's a chili oil. It's just so good. And you put that on ramen, really anything. Eggs. Put it on eggs. Oh my God. Now I'm hungry. Yum. God, now I want it. Ah, I love chili oil. I really like chili. I had some great part of the dumplings we had today were these spicy wontons. Like they were like, fresh wontons, but in a spicy oil sauce. Oh my God. It was it was too amazing. Augmentation. Oh yeah, no, I hot sauce is like almost in everything. Chili oil on pizza, 100%. 100%. No, I love chili oil. I'm sure it's not probably good for the insides, but it's so good. It's so good. I mean, I think it has to be good for you. I'm gonna go with yes. All right, let's finish this book. Move that bus. I'm excited, and then we're gonna start a new book. Thank you, Oomph, for suggesting a new book. I can't remember what it's called. The Ministry for the Future. Ministry for the Future. I'm very excited to read it. Oh, let me find out what book. I should find out what book Bobo got. I'll find out. All right, let's read this. This is in chapter 30. And the name of this chapter is the name of the book, Democracy Awakening. In the 1930s, the New Deal coalition demonstrated that the government could promote the welfare of the people, thus establishing the liberal consensus. Why am I excited? About what? About chili oil? Why am I excited? I don't remember. It's probably chili oil. I don't know. Why. Okay. All right, here we go. In the 19... Okay. Let me read that again. In the 1930s, the New Deal coalition demonstrated that the government could promote the welfare of the people, thus establishing the liberal consensus. At the same time, the expansion of rights to women and black and brown Americans, as well as to other minorities, set in motion the undermining of democracy that is still underway. Since the 1980s, political figures oh my God, stop. Apparently, I'm so excited I can't read. Since the 1980s, political figures eager to get rid of that liberal consensus have gained power by denigrating it, ignoring the fact that expanding equality was entirely consistent with the principles the founders had put in the Declaration of Independence. They have suggested that doing so rejected America's historical ideals. And although the liberal consensus bolstered economic prosperity and shared it more widely than ever before, they claimed it stunted economic growth. The demands of black and brown Americans for inclusion in the nation's political system after World War II forced the nation to grapple with the true meaning of democracy. President Dwight Eisenhower pushed the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1957 primarily to protect the voting rights that were, theoretically, already established. And once James Meredith had pushed him into backing desegregation, President John F. Kennedy advocated a stronger civil rights bill. Just 5 days after Kennedy's murder, his successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, told Congress, "No memorial oration or eulogy could more eloquently honor President Kennedy's memory than the earliest possible passage of the Civil Rights Bill for which he fought so long. Although Southern white men passionately defended their right to rule over their black neighbors through state legislation, LBJ, for all of his love of his native state of Texas, wanted none of that. We have talked long enough in this country about equal rights. We have talked for 100 years or more. It is time now to write the next chapter and to write it in the books of law, he said. Congress considered a civil rights bill in early 1964. Must have been when I was born. While black and white Americans demonstrated their support for civil rights by integrating formerly segregated spaces. On June 18th, when black and white people jumped into a whites-only swimming pool at the Monson Motor Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida, the hotel's owner, James Brock, poured acid into the pool. The water diluted the acid enough so that the swimmers were not injured, but local law enforcement officers arrested them. News crews covered the incident. For a number of Americans, seeing a white man pour acid into a swimming pool to drive out black people was the last straw. The next day, Republican Everett Dirksen of Illinois, the Senate Minority Leader, managed to deliver enough Republican votes to Majority Leader Mike Mansfield of Montana to break a Senate filibuster. Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater, who said, quote, "I am unalterably opposed to discrimination or segregation on the basis of race, color, or creed, or on any other basis," voted against ending the filibuster, saying he believed it was a, quote, "grave threat to the very essence of our basic system of government, namely, that of a constitutional republic in which 50 sovereign states have reserved to themselves and to the people those powers not specifically granted to the central or federal government." The Senate passed the bill on June 19th and sent their version back to the House 2 days before 3 voting rights workers, black Mississippian James Chaney and white Jewish New Yorkers Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner, disappeared near Philadelphia, Mississippi. As rage over the 3 missing men grew, Johnson pressured the House to pass the bill. It did. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964 into law on July 2nd. Just before he wrote his name, Johnson addressed the American people on television, quote, "to talk to you about what that law means to every American." Keenly aware of the bill's timing, he noted, quote, 188 years ago this week, a small band of valiant men began a long struggle for freedom. They pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor not only to found a nation, but to forge an ideal of freedom, not only for political independence, but for personal liberty, not only to eliminate foreign rule, but to establish the rule of justice in the affairs of men. That was a triumph, but, quote, "those who founded our country knew that freedom would be secure only if each generation fought to renew and enlarge its meaning. Americans of every race and color have died in battle to protect our freedom. Americans of every race and color have worked to build a nation of widening opportunities. Now our generation of Americans has been called on to continue the unending search for justice within our own borders." Johnson celebrated that the bill had bipartisan support of more than 2/3 of the lawmakers in Congress and that it enjoyed the support of the great majority of the American people. He emphasized that the law does not restrict the freedom of any American so long as he respects the rights of others. He took on the old trope that black Americans wanted, quote, "special treatment," and said that the law simply made sure that those people the founders had declared were created equal would now, quote, "also be equal in the polling booths, in the classrooms, in the factories, and in hotels, restaurants, movie theaters, and other places that provide a service to the public." Its purpose was not to punish. Its purpose is not to divide, but to end divisions which have lasted all too long. Its purpose is national, not regional. Its purpose is to promote a more abiding commitment to freedom, a more constant pursuit of justice, and a deeper respect for human dignity. Oh, that's a beautiful line. That's a really beautiful line. Most Americans wanted to do what was right, he said, and it was time for them to assert their power. "My fellow citizens," he said, "we have now come to a time of testing. We must not fail." Johnson had a vision of a great society that would eliminate poverty and racial injustice once and for all. While FDR's New Deal had to use the federal government to address the greatest economic crisis in U.S. history, leveling the playing field between workers and employers to enable working men to support their families, the country was enjoying record growth in 1964. Far from simply saving the country, LBJ could afford to direct it toward greater things. In May 1964, Johnson outlined his plan in a graduation speech at the University of Michigan, and the administration immediately turned to addressing issues of civil rights and poverty. After Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, it passed the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964, which created an Office of Economic Opportunity to oversee a whole series of anti-poverty programs, and the Food Stamp Act, which helped people who didn't make a lot of money buy food. Republicans ran Barry Goldwater again against Johnson for president in 1964, calling for rolling back business regulation and civil rights to the years before the New Deal. But voters who quite liked the new system gave Democrats such a strong majority in Congress that Johnson and the Democrats were able to pass 84 new laws to put the Great Society into place. They cemented civil rights with the 1965 Voting Rights Act, protecting minority voting, created jobs in Appalachia, and established job training and community development programs. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 gave federal aid to public schools and established the Head Start program to provide comprehensive early education for low-income children. The Higher Education Act of 1965 increased federal investment in universities and provided scholarships and low-interest loans to students. The Social Security Amendments of 1965 created Medicare, which provided health insurance for Americans over age 65, and Medicaid, which helped cover health care costs for those with limited incomes. Congress advanced the war on poverty by increasing welfare payments and subsidizing rent for low-income families. But the government did not simply address poverty. Congress took on the rights of consumers with new protective legislation that required cigarettes and other dangerous products to carry warning labels, required products to carry labels identifying the manufacturer, and required lenders to disclose the full cost of finance charges and loans. Congress also passed legislation protecting the environment, including the Water Quality Act of 1965, which established federal standards for water quality. Congress also endorsed LBJ's aspirations for beauty and purpose with the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities Act of 1965. This law created both the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities to make sure the era's emphasis on science didn't endanger the humanities. In 1967, it would also establish the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, followed in 1969 by National Public Radio. For better or worse, Johnson had told the University of Michigan graduates in 1964, "Your generation has been appointed by history to lead America toward a new age. You can help build a society where the demands of morality and the needs of the spirit can be realized in the life of the nation." He urged them to make equality a reality and to end poverty. Quote, "There are those timid souls who say this battle cannot be won, that we are condemned to a soulless wealth," he said, but he disagreed. "We have the power to shape the civilization that we want, but we need your will, your labor, your hearts, if we are to build that kind of society." The Great Society programs changed America. 40 million Americans were poor in 1960, but by 1969 that number had fallen to 24 million. The prosperity was shared by white and non-white people more fully than ever before. Black school attendance increased by 4 years. Twice as many black people found work in professional, technical, and clerical occupations. The black unemployment rate fell 34%. And median black family income rose 53% in 1960. 55% of black Americans live below the poverty line. By 1968, the number was 27%. In the decade after 1965, infant mortality fell by 1/3 thanks to new medical and nutritional programs. In 1960, 20% of Americans had no indoor plumbing. By 1970, that had fallen to 11%. Women's lives, too, became more integrated into the United States. In 1950, women made up about 1/3 of the total labor force. By 1980, they made up more than 40%, growing at a rate dramatically faster than that of men. In 1965, the Supreme Court defended their equality by recognizing the constitutional right of married people to use contraception. In 1973, it similarly protected the right to abortion, which has then been removed. Opponents of the Great Society programs picked up 47 seats in the House and 3 seats in the Senate in the 1966 midterm elections, and U.S. News and World Report wrote that the Big Bash was over. But the nation seemed poised to embrace its multicultural history. The big hit of 1971 was the sitcom All in the Family, in which Archie Bunker, a working-class white man from Queens, New York, fought with his feminist daughter and hippie son-in-law who supported the liberal consensus. The African-American series Sanford and Son debuted in 1972 and was so popular it drove its competition, The Brady Bunch, off the air in 1974. That year, Chico and the Man introduced a Latino veteran trying to help an alcoholic Anglo-American widower adapt to the Hispanic neighborhood that had surrounded his garage. Popular culture seemed more accepting of differences, more willing to believe in redemption. The openness that meant that openness meant that those opposing the liberal consensus seemed out of step, people who would be left behind. The Archie Bunker type seemed to be a dying breed, and modern Americans could afford to be charitable toward them, just as they had been toward the Confederates whose ideology the modern Archie Bunkers shared. That charity extended even toward President Richard M. Nixon, who had begun the process of unwinding the liberal consensus by turning Americans against one another for political power, and who had eventually used the power of the government to try and keep himself in office. When Republicans demanded Nixon resign on August 9, 1974, or face impeachment and conviction, his replacement, Gerald Ford, pardoned him to try and bring the country back together and avoid a prolonged and divisive debate over the propriety of exposing to further punishment and degradation a man who has already paid the unprecedented penalty of relinquishing the highest elective office of the United States. Thank you, Gerald Ford. Fucker. Finally, it seemed that until the post-World War II revision of liberalism to include the defense of civil rights and welfare legislation, the U.S. was on track to be the multicultural democracy the Declaration of Independence had hinted it could become. But it turned out that while those who embraced the new America were laughing at Archie Bunker, those who distrusted it saw him as a spokesman. Then, in 1980, Ronald Reagan echoed the divisive rhetoric Nixon had used and ran for the presidency by warning voters that government couldn't provide solutions to the problems of the day. Instead, he said, government was the problem. He won with 50.7% of the vote. Conclusion. Reclaiming our country. In his farewell address on January 4, 1981, President Jimmy Carter noted that undermining of faith in the government's ability to deal with problems meant that Americans were turning increasingly to, quote, single-issue groups and special interest organizations to ensure that whatever else happens, our own personal views and our own private interests are protected. This, he warned, distorts the nation's purpose because, quote, the national interest is not always the sum of our single or special interests. We are all Americans together, and we must not forget that the common good is our common interest and our individual responsibility. A president who had added solar panels to the White House, he urged Americans to protect, quote, our most precious possessions, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land which sustains us, and to advance the basic human rights that had, after all, invented America. Our common vision of a free and just society, he said, is our greatest source of cohesion at home and strength abroad, greater even than the bounty of our material blessings. Carter urged Americans, we didn't deserve Jimmy Carter, by the way. I think Jimmy Carter was one of the best presidents we've ever had. I truly think he was ahead of his time. Carter urged Americans to remember these words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet, here we are. In the years after President Ronald Reagan took over the White House, where he promptly removed the solar panels, a radical minority once again used the power of language and the power of their own historical myth to tear apart the concept of the common good. Their dismantling of the liberal consensus revived a dangerous trend towards authoritarianism. First, wealth concentrated upward, leaving a large group of Americans dispossessed and angry over their downward mobility. At the same time, popular culture emphasized that those dispossessed Americans were at fault for their failure in a system they increasingly recognized was rigged. Then Republican politicians flooded the media system with propaganda insisting the tax cuts and pro-business government policies were not to blame for the dispossession of white lower and middle-class Americans. The culprits, they insisted, were lazy, grasping, and immoral minorities and women. Increasing numbers of Americans rejected the idea that the government could defend their interests, while those who still had faith in the system and tried to elect Democrats to office found the Republicans had increasingly diluted their votes through gerrymandering, voter suppression, the filibuster, and the Electoral College. By 2016, the Republican candidate for president was openly calling for the help of an authoritarian Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, against his Democratic opponent. And then that candidate, Donald Trump, became president. When Americans elected Democratic President Joe Biden in 2020, he made it clear that he intended to defend American democracy from rising authoritarianism. Throughout his campaign, he focused on bringing people into the center-right and center-left together, just as scholars of authoritarianism have called for. Biden ignored Trump and pledged to work with Republicans who believed in the rule of law and not the rule of a single man. On January 6, 2021, after the attack on the U.S. Capitol and on the right of Americans to choose their leaders, Biden explicitly defended the traditional American values. Quote, "Those who stormed this Capitol and those who instigated and incited and those who called on them to do so acted not in service of America, but rather in service of one man, who has created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election, because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interests as more important than his country's interests and America's interests, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution," Biden told the American people. He urged Americans not to succumb to autocracy, but to come together to defend our democracy, quote, "to keep the promise of America alive, and to protect what we stand for, the right to vote, the right to govern ourselves, and the right to determine our own destiny." Once sworn into office, Biden set out to demonstrate that the government could work for ordinary people. He went straight to the Oval Office after his inauguration, and 2 days after taking office, rescinded Trump's Schedule F executive order that would have ended the civil service system and enabled the president to pack the government with loyalists. He fired the political appointees Trump had tried to burrow into the federal government. Well, he didn't get them all. Okay, honey. Sorry, I'm going to take a point of order here. Trump had tried to burrow into the federal government, and he promised that none of his family members would work at the White House. In his first 2 years in office, with a slender majority in the House of Representatives and a Senate split 50-50, the Democrats managed to pass historic legislation that echoed off of FDR and LBJ, shoring up the economy, rebuilding the country's infrastructure, and investing in the future, trying to bring the disaffected Americans who had given up on democracy back into the fold. In March 2021, Democrats passed the $1.9 billion American Rescue Plan to combat the coronavirus pandemic and stimulate the economy that it had hobbled. In November 2021, some Republicans were persuaded to get on board to pass the $1.2 billion bipartisan infrastructure law to rebuild the country's roads and bridges and to install broadband in rural areas across the nation. A few Republicans also backed the 2022 CHIPS and Science Act, which invested $52 billion in the domestic manufacture of semiconductors and boosted scientific research in the U.S. And in August 2022, Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which made historic investments in addressing climate change, expanded health coverage, reduced the deficit, and raised taxes on corporations and the very wealthy. Biden's domestic program expanded liberalism to meet the civil rights demands Carter had identified, and just as Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, FDR, and LBJ had each expanded liberalism to meet the challenges of westward expansion, industrialization, globalization, and anti-colonialism. Biden and his administration centered liberalism not around nuclear families headed by male breadwinners, as had always been the case before, but around children and their caregivers. He did not manage to sell Congress on child care and elder care infrastructure, but the Democrats did temporarily expand the child and dependent care tax credit, pass the first gun safety law in 30 years, protect interracial and gay marriage, and pass legislation to help the millions of veterans exposed to toxic burn pits in military zones. After 12 years on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and 8 as vice president, Biden knew that defending democracy at home meant strengthening it internationally. He and Secretary of State Antony Blinken set out to rejoin international alliances and reinforce them. Biden brought the U.S. back into the World Health Organization and set out to rebuild NATO and other strategic alliances while forging new ones in the Indo-Pacific region and Africa. In his first speech to the State Department on February 4th, he emphasized that he had already spoken to the leaders of many of our closest friends: Canada, Mexico, UK, Germany, France, NATO, Japan, South Korea, Australia, to begin reforming the habits of cooperation and rebuilding the muscle of democratic alliances that have been atrophied over the past few years of neglect and, I would argue, abuse. Once again, America's most cherished democratic values would be at the center of American diplomacy: defending freedom, championing opportunity, upholding universal rights, respecting the rule of law, and treating every person with dignity. The power of that defense became clear in February 2022 when Putin launched a new invasion of Ukraine. Putin was stymied by Ukraine's soldiers who had trained hard in the 8 years since the first Russian invasion, and by an international community that refused to recognize Russia's land grab, imposed strict and coordinated sanctions, and provided Ukraine with money, intelligence, and weapons. This community stood together in no small part thanks to Biden and Blinken, and the strength in that cooperation discredited the argument that autocracy was more efficient and more powerful than democracy. Putin's highly praised and feared army turned out to be undertrained and poorly supplied. Corrupt officials and their backers siphoned off money intended for military readiness into mega yachts and London flats for themselves and their mistresses. The idea floated by Trump supporters that Russian society was more moral than democracies where LGBTQ people are considered equal was also discredited as Russian invaders committed war crimes against Ukraine's civilians. And the idea that democracies are weak was belied by Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, a lawyer and former television comedian, who put on military clothes and when offered an escape from his besieged city responded, "I don't need a ride, I need more ammunition." But despite the emerging defense of democracy, Trumpism did not die. Trump and his loyalists continued to insist that he won the 2020 election, while extremists like newly elected Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who at one point called for Democratic politicians to be executed, told the right-wing newspaper there was no difference between establishment Republicans and Democrats. She says that again now. She said she was eager to bring more action-oriented people like her into Congress to help Trump with his plan whenever he comes out with it. Establishment leaders swung behind the Trump faction, especially after June 2022, when Supreme Court, backed by then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, with 3 extremist judges, ignored the settled law they had promised to protect and overturned the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion. Republican leaders went on to challenge all of the court decisions protecting the liberal consensus government in place since the 1930s. If the 14th Amendment did not protect abortion, other civil rights it protected were on the table, including gay marriage, the right to contraception, and perhaps even desegregation. Also on the table was the government regulation of business. Meanwhile, Trump's political star had begun to fall as his legal and financial troubles mounted in the years after the election. Well, yeah, they're still there. But he had radicalized the Republican Party, and the Republican governors competed to pick up his votes. Unlike Trump in 2016, though, they made no pretense of embracing the Reagan Republican ideology of free markets. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, for instance, openly used the power of his office to reward political friends and punish those he perceived as enemies, and to manufacture anti-immigrant and anti-LGBTQ sentiment, much as Putin and Orban had done before him. Right-wing thinkers began to argue openly that democracy and its values, equality before the law, separation of church and state, an independent press, academic freedom, and free markets, have undermined the human virtue of the past and must be stamped out. Crucially, those efforts depended on maintaining the right-wing myth that the American history was rooted in a pure past and that their opponents were destroying. Early in Biden's term, Republican operatives manufactured outrage over the alleged teaching of critical race theory in public schools. That legal theory, designed to explain why the laws of the 1970s hadn't created the equality they promised, was an upper-level law school elective that had never actually been taught in public schools. Republican-dominated legislatures passed laws forbidding teachers from teaching CRT or any lesson suggesting that the American system might have ever had systemic inequalities, or even lessons that might make some people, by which they meant white people, uncomfortable. Hand in hand with that censorship was a surge in book banning from the public schools and from some public libraries, with most of the banned books written by or about Black or LGBTQ people. A history that looks back to a mythologized past as the country's perfect time is a key tool of authoritarians. It allows them to characterize anyone who opposes them as an enemy of the country's great destiny. But the true history of American democracy is that it is never finished. It is the story of people who have honored the idea that a nation can be based not in land or religion or race or hierarchies, but rather in the concept of human equality. That commitment, along with its corollary, that we have a right to consent to our government, which in turn should act in our interest, has brought us powerful history of people working and sacrificing to bring those principles to life. Reclaiming our history of noble struggle reworks the polarizing language that has done us such disservice while it undermines the ideology of authoritarianism. In 1776, with all their limitations, the founders proposed that it was possible to create a nation based not in religion or race or hierarchies of wealth or tradition, but in the rule of law. It was possible, at least in principle, they thought, to bring widely different peoples together in a system in which every person was equal before the law and entitled to a voice in government. They set out to show that it could be done. That theory was never unchallenged. In the 1850s, a reactionary and wealthy minority tried to get rid of it altogether, insisting that true democracy centered power in the state governments that they controlled. Gradually, they took over the mechanics of the American government. Those 19th century leaders perverted the meaning of democracy for their own ends, and they were able to do so because they created a closed media system that lied to their voters and demonized their opponents. They convinced their voters that American democracy was rooted in the states and that the state legislators could determine the living conditions of a state's people, even if that meant enslaving them. They took over their party and then their state governments and then the national government. They believed they were the vanguard of a new system that would enable the United States to lead a world dominated by a few wealthy, well-connected, and usually white and male leaders whose economy rested on inequality and enslavement. But that story didn't end as the elite slavers wished. Men like Abraham Lincoln recognized that such a struggle was not just about who got elected into the White House. It was the story of humanity, the eternal struggle between those two principles, right and wrong, throughout the world. Lincoln made it clear that those who wanted the right to self-determination had always had to struggle, and would always have to struggle, against those who wanted power. Quote, "The one is the common right of humanity, and the other is the divine right of kings. It is the same principle in whatever shape it develops itself," he said. No matter in what shape it comes, whether from the mouth of a king who seeks to bestride the people of his own nation and live by the fruit of their labor, or from one race of men as an apology for enslaving another race, it is the same tyrannical principle. Lincoln emphasized that those trying to destroy democracy in his era were not the conservatives they claimed to be, but were dangerous radicals whose version of America must be rejected. He called on his neighbors to defend equality before the law and the right of everyone to consent to the government under which they live. They must reclaim the history of America so that it would have a new birth of freedom. When Lincoln said those words in 1863, it was not at all clear that his vision would prevail. But he had hope because, after decades in which they had not noticed what the powerful were doing to destroy democracy, Americans had woken up. They realized that the very nature of America was under attack. They were divided among themselves, and at first they didn't really know how to fight back. But ordinary people quickly came in to pitch in however they could, using the tools they had. Quote, "We rose each fighting, grasping whatever he could reach, a scythe, a pitchfork, a chopping axe, or a butcher's cleaver," Lincoln recalled. Once awake, they found the strength of the majority. In Lincoln's era, democracy appeared to have won. But the Americans of Lincoln's time did not root out the hierarchical strand of our history, leaving it there for other rising autocrats in the future to exploit with their rhetoric and their fears and their followers. So far, the hopes of our founders have never been proven fully right, and yet they have not been proven entirely wrong. Once again, we are at a time of testing. How it comes out rests, as it always has, in our own hands. And that is Democracy awakening. Woo. We did it. We did it. We really, really did it. We did it. That was a good book. It was a good book for kind of like the basics. Yay. Yay us. Mm-mm-mm. That demands some weed. Now it's really time to go to bed. Oh, it's 10:17. Holy moly. Everybody's gotta go to bed. Wait, I should sing you a lullaby. What's a good lullaby? Let's see. Oh, that's in Russian. That's in Russian. I can't see. I don't even remember lullabies. I mean, Rockabye Baby. Well, I don't know. I all I can think is like the lullaby of Broadway. Yeah, good night. No. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Oomph. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks, Paul. Badger. It's 1:17. Oh no. God damn it. I'm sorry. That sucks. That blows. It's 4:00 in the morning. Donate. There's a good Lily Allen song. I think it's 5:00 in the morning. I like Lily Allen. She's good. All right. Good night, my darling friends. I may not see you tomorrow, although I probably will. But I may not. But I'll definitely see you Friday night. 'Cause it's Friday night and it feels alright. Oh, yeah, it's Friday night. Oh, what a night. Oh my God, I can't wait to show you what I got at the thrift store today. I don't have it. It's in the car. But I'll get it and you're going to love it. It's really fun. I got it at the Goodwill. I went down to the Goodwill. I found a sign. It's great. I got to clean it up, but it's great. All right. Anyway, thank you again. Thanks for coming. I had a great time. I hope you did too. I'm really glad we finished that book. Really proud of us. I think we're amazing. All right. I'll see you sometime tomorrow. You know I'm going to see you sometime tomorrow. You know I will. All right. No, for reals. I gotta go. Okay, bye. Good night. Bye. Well, why didn't you do that during the show? That would have been nice. Everybody would have liked that. The cat just jumped on the back of my chair. Yeah, you couldn't do that when people were watching? Wait, hold on. You're going to jump down the minute I put the camera on, aren't you? Right after. Look at this. What the hell? Sammy. Okay, that's my back. Oh, I see. He wanted me to move my arm. Hi. Hi. See, everybody wants to see you. Everybody wants to see you. You're cute. Hi, cutie. All right, we're going to go to bed. Good night. I mean it this time.